I keep thinking about how I can more easily and efficiently and just be better at explaining some of this to you. As I've said many times, the entire Bible is for you, but it's not to you. And I've thought about how I can explain that to you in such a way. And I've thought about a couple of things. Just imagine there's an older couple and they live across the street. And the mailman comes and he doesn't stop at their house, but they always are looking for their mail. You know, that's kind of what old people do, right? And he doesn't stop at their house, but you notice he stops at the neighbor's house. And immediately, the lady from across the street goes to the neighbor's house and gets the mail. And here's the conversation that she has with her husband when she takes the neighbor's mail back to her house. She opens the first envelope and she goes, "Oh, honey, looks like we have a birthday party to go to on Saturday. Sally's turning 7. Oh, well, okay. What we need to Google, since we don't have children and never did, we need to Google what 7-year-old, what you buy for 7-year-olds. And she opens the next envelope and she says, "Oh, man, we have jury duty on the 14th. And the husband says, "Oh, darn, I was going to go golfing with Bob on the 14th, but I guess I'll have to cancel that." And she opens the third envelope and says, "Oh my goodness, our Netflix account is past due. So, we owe $50 and it's due by day after tomorrow. So I'm going to write a check and you go to the post office and put it in the mail so it'll get there on time so it doesn't cancel." And he says, "Well, okay." As he gets his shoes, he says, "Okay, but open the last envelope before, last piece of mail before I go." And she opens it and she says, "Oh, great news. We have $100,000 in Happy State Bank." And he says, he smiles and he says, "Oh, that's wonderful. We can finally get that patio furniture we've wanted." All of that is silly, right? And it comes about because they're reading mail that is not to them. It's not their mail. And that's what you do as Christians. You read mail that is for you. It'll show you a lot of things, but it's not to you. And that's what you're doing. You read it and you start trying to do it. Instead of learning something about how God deals with his people, you make it about you. And that's what Christianity does. They don't divide any part of the word. You think that the 10 Commandments were to you. They weren't to you. They were to the descendants of Abraham, being led by Moses in the wilderness. They got the Ten Commandments. They ended up getting all the law. And they were prophesied to have a Messiah that would come. Did they have a Messiah that came? Yes, they did. And guess what Jesus did? He says it clearly. I came but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Jesus spoke to the Israelites. And yet, what do you do? You try to take that as if it's to you. You try to do that as if he was speaking to you. It would be very similar to this. Just imagine, as far as we know, there was one thing, one piece of information that was given to King David before he became king. And it was that he would be the king of Israel. Now, lots of things happened in the 17 or so years between when he got that information and when he became king. And we don't know any more about it than he was going to be king, and he could feel the anointing oil pouring down on it over his head that Samuel put on him. But what if King David had said, well, I know I'm going to be king of Israel, and at some point in time, I might have to save the world by being king of Israel. So I really need to get started building that ark. That would be silly, right? But it's no more silly than you not rightly dividing the word. That would be an example of King David not rightly dividing and acting like everything that was talked about was to him. When it wasn't. What if, when the Israelites were in the wilderness and about to cross over into the promised land, after being in the wilderness for 40 years, and they surrounded the city of Jericho, and they started marching around? What if the citizens of Jericho, they said, hey, the last time this happened, gosh, the last time that these people, the Israelites, were in a city, in a country, city, whatever, all the firstborn of Egypt died because they didn't have the lamb's blood over their doorposts. So what we need to do, citizens of Jericho, we need to go kill the lambs and put the blood over the doorpost. Each one of our doorposts. That'll stop it. Would that have worked? Nope. Why? Because it wasn't to them. They're not in the same place. These things have their place. Okay? And that's why I spend so much time telling you that the message for today is what is written in the letters of the Apostle Paul. That's it. The rest are examples, and the rest have their place. What did Jesus do? He was the Messiah, the prophesied Messiah. Paul says that Jesus came to confirm the patriarchal promises. What were the patriarchal promises? That there would be a Messiah from Abraham. Now, was Jesus of the lineage of Abraham? Yes, he was. But he was more than that, as I've told you, because he took it all the way back to Adam, the first Adam. That's what Paul talks about. And Paul's the only one who does that. Jesus came as the Messiah. And as I've told you many times, the kingdom was at the door. John the Baptist said that. Jesus said that. Did the kingdom come? No, it did not. Why? Because they rejected the king. I've said that many times. I've also told you and explained how the 12 disciples, the 11 plus the one who replaced Judas, Matthias, I think it was his name, doesn't matter. There were 12 so they could certify an event as a factual thing. Because with 12, it was confirmed that it was a true fact. Because you had 12 people saying it. They had 12 who witnessed his death, his burial, his resurrection. And they spoke that truth to the Israelites. And they spoke it with signs and wonders. So the Israelites had no excuse. But God did not give them the faith to believe. Why? Because God had something else in mind. I've gone through that in other videos. The Apostle Paul, his message, the foundational part of the name Paul means pause. And that's what Romans 9 through 11, chapters 9 through 11 talk about, is a pause. The kingdom will come, but we're in a pause. And that's why I've mentioned it and told you. Genesis chapter 2, the disciples get the Holy Spirit by Acts chapter 2, and then by Acts chapter 9, Stephen is being stoned. The kingdom is not going to come. And who are we introduced to then? The Apostle Paul, who was Saul at the time. But guess what? And these are the things just to show you that things are different. Paul, Saul, let's get it, when he first is overwhelmed by the risen Christ. Where is he at? He's not in Israel. He's on the road to Damascus. Who's he going to? Not the Israelites. Where's his hub of operation? Antioch, not Israel. See, all of these things show you this one truth that you can't get because nobody in your world knows it. You know, one of the first things, and I've told you these kinds of things many times and written about them a gazillion times, one of the first things God ever showed me was you can't teach what you don't know. And you can't give away what you don't have. There's a reason that your pastor can't tell you this, because he doesn't know it. Is it his fault he doesn't know it? No. But God has not shown him. God has not given him the eyes to see. And the rest of the people in your life don't know this. And here's the difference. I do believe you're going to get it. I've said that in multiple videos. The question will be, are you going to get it early enough that you can share it with the people that you love who do not understand it, who do not know it, and they have no one in their life who will tell it to them? That's the question. And again, in the absolute sense, God's either going to give them the understanding of that or he's not. Now, on to a slightly different topic. When I tell you that everyone is going to be saved, you need to think about this in the right way. Hitler is going to be saved, even if he did the bad stuff or whatever. But he's not going to be saved with the same character that he had then. He's going to be changed by the goodness of God and the grace of God and his coming into an understanding of who God is. And that's the same with everyone. Okay? Saul was the chief sinner. That's what he called himself. He was killing believers. The Israelite believers. But what happened? He got changed because he came into the presence of the risen Christ. You see, you get so limited and you think that, and this is kind of why, because you don't have an understanding of the ages. And you think it all has to be done right now, and I get that. But it's wrong. I get why you understand it, because I was in your shoes for 38 years. But you're wrong. You just don't understand. God is going to change people with his goodness and with his grace, and by changing their life. So no, nobody's going in like that. Nobody's getting saved like that. They'll get saved by the goodness of God and the grace of God. And the last thing I want to talk about in this one, and throw this out there, the thing that you have to understand is everything that's happening is a part of God's plan and God's purpose. Now I know that, and especially us, we've seen some evil in this world, and we understand that there is evil in this world. And everything that happens is not in line with what is in God's heart. But it is in line with His purpose, and it helps accomplish His purpose. So evil is going to be bad, extreme, but it is temporary. And it is there to show the contrast to the unbelievable goodness of God. And He's only good. And you will see that. Maybe you don't see that right now. Maybe you won't see it in this age, in this life. But you will see it. And you will have contrast. For example, I told you Jeremiah 19:4-5. That what they were doing, that God, it was not ever in God's heart. When they were sacrificing their children to Moloch, wasn't in God's heart. That's a true statement. Ezekiel says it this way. He says that God does not enjoy the wicked dying. But these certain things are necessary for the purpose of contrast. And I encourage you, and I've said this in other videos, but I encourage you, go back and read Genesis chapters 2 and 3 and see Adam and Eve. There's not one word from Adam or Eve about how good God is. Wow, God, this place is amazing. Wow, God, you're amazing. Wow, what you've done, the things you've given us. There's not one word of any of that. Not even a hint. There's not even a hint that they had any understanding of any of that, of what they had in the garden. Not even a hint. Because they had nothing to compare it to. And that was the purpose. After they got removed from the garden, they could certainly see differently. And you and I can certainly see differently. God is revealing who He is by showing the contrast. And to do that, yes, there are certain things that are not in His heart. But what I'm telling you is the letters of Paul, the teaching of Paul about the grace of God, the transcendent grace of God, the conciliation of man to God, the finished work of Jesus Christ, and the salvation of all, shows God in a different way than you're used to. And as I've said a billion times, I do these things so you can see God for who He is and worship Him as God in all that it means. Hopefully, you can quit diminishing God and making it about yourself. See, that's the problem. It's like when I talk about Hitler or any bad person, Hillary Clinton or whoever. There are vessels of dishonor. God has made vessels of dishonor. Are they going to serve their purpose? Yes, they are. Just like the vessels of honor. are going to serve their purpose. But in the end, they will be changed and they will be thankful that they were vessels of dishonor, showing God who He is. But see, you think that because you've done something in this life that warrants you being saved. And that person over there, they didn't do enough in their life to be saved. Again, you don't understand the ages, and you make it about you. It's not about what God did, not about what Jesus Christ did, that God did through Jesus Christ. It's about what you do. You didn't do enough in your life. You didn't have enough faith. You didn't believe. You didn't do the right things. You did too many bad things. Whatever it is, it's about you. And that's how you can look at that person over there and go, well, they didn't do enough. They were bad. They did too many bad things. And they did the bad things right up until the end. And maybe they did. But it's not about you. This is not about your purpose or your plan or anything like that. This is about God's purpose and God's plan. Let God be God and worship Him as God. And a lot of that stuff will fall off. God is bigger than you think He is. And He is better than you think He is. And His plan is much, much better than you think it is. And He's going to accomplish His plan because He's God. I love you all so very